So I'm Colleen Kiley. I work with the Center for Geographic Information and Analysis, and it is my pleasure to introduce Sally Vaughn with Person County. She is one of the Herb Stout finalists, and she will be here to talk about road sign work order solutions. And let's see here. Let's get you. Are you doing a demo? Or
No,
you've got one.
I'm not brave. I think it's this one. Okay, great. Thank you, Colleen. Good morning. My name is Sally Vaughn, and I'm the GIS Director in Person County, North Carolina, which is just north of the Durham metro area. This project basically began with a problem. As you all know, if you work in addressing, road signs go missing or get damaged. Sometimes a new road sign needs to be put up when a subdivision gets built. At the time, we had an inefficient road sign work order system. It was not location-based. There were no maps. Staff were unable to report new issues or if they happened to see a missing road sign while they were in the field, and there was no way to check on the status of a work order. There was also no single reporting system for all road sign issues between the city of Roxborough and Person County. So you can imagine there's a lot of duplicated effort going on. A lot of times some of our staff would get out to replace a road sign to find out that another staff person had already done the work. And then we had the fun of some bad and creative spelling. A lot of times some misspellings would wind up on our road signs, which causes a huge issue for people that are moving to the area. This is basically what the existing work order system for road sign management looked like prior to this project. Does this give anybody else a headache? So if you can see, we are receiving input from an online form. We would receive phone calls, verbal reports, emails, and sometimes field staff would also report things to us, but they would also report things to the county work order system. Field staff would sometimes not report it at all and just fix it. And we're involved in this flow chart because we hold the master road name list. We know what the official road names are supposed to be for the county, and so we ask that any road sign work orders come through our department so we can vet that name and then pass it on, but that was getting a little cumbersome. So we're a small department. We're a department of 2, and so you sort of have to focus on what you do have available to you and not focus on what you don't have. So what we do have, thankfully, is a small government enterprise license agreement, which gives us way more licenses for ArcGIS Online than we could ever use. It's wonderful. We have on-prem SQL and SDE and ArcGIS Server. We have willing and capable IT, and our general services staff really felt they needed some improvement here and actually came to us with this problem. And then you also kind of have to identify your requirements and limitations, and I'll get to that a little bit more later. And again, don't focus on what you don't have. And you can see those are all the things that most folks don't have in GIS shops. So now that you've got your resources and needs identified, we needed to find a solution. Well, I'm not going to create something from scratch. Don't have time for that or the skill for that. So I went onto Esri's website, thank you, Esri, and downloaded their Citizen Problem Reporter solution. We chose this because it allows some interface between the public and city and county staff through the Citizen Problem Collector app, essentially. We could also deploy it completely in ArcGIS Online, which was the preference of our IT department due to the ability to attach files. They would prefer those be in the cloud. So out of the box, the Citizen Problem Reporter has several categories of problems built in. That's what's shown on the left there. And then once you choose the category, there's some subcategories of problems available. So what we did is basically customize a solution to focus on the single category of road sign issues. And then that second drop-down list is the road name list from the master road name table. It's not exactly what they intended it to be used for, but that's sort of the functionality that I saw. And we did this so you could not enter an incorrect road name into the work order system. Yes, so no creative spelling. I also had to customize this solution quite a bit. If you've worked with it, you know that the map side of things can only consume a base map. You can't add other functional layers to it. So I actually had to create a custom base map and then publish it, I believe, as a tile package, which was the first time I'd ever done that. And then that has to be rebuilt every time you add roads, but that's just part of the fun. And you can see, maybe you can't, the state roads are green, the private roads are blue, and that is to help sort of hammer home the idea that if you're replacing a state road, you use a green blade, and if you're replacing a private road, you use a blue blade. This solution also allows you to restrict where reports can be made. So we were actually, I don't know why, we were receiving road sign reports missing from Pamlico County, places in Virginia. We don't really know how they found the Person County website to do that, but this solution will not allow you to report anything outside the county boundary, which is good for us, because I always felt bad if someone put in a ticket in Pamlico County to have something fixed and it didn't get fixed, because they put it in the wrong place. That person's then frustrated that the government didn't listen. So I would usually call Pamlico County and let them know. This solution comes with some Python tools, which is great because I am not a programmer. And we used a couple of the tools that you can see here. We used the send emails, the generate report ID tool, and the enrich reports. We did have some challenges with this. So when an email gets automatically sent from this Python script, it will only email one individual. You cannot have it email a group of individuals. I found some Python code modifications online and got quickly intimidated by that. And so I asked IT, could we create an office mailbox for those people to be subscribed to? And then you just email the office mailbox and everyone receives it. So again, focus on what you've got, not what you don't. That was extremely helpful. It also helped us loop in our friends at the City of Roxborough, where they could be receiving emails when a report came in that was inside the city limits. So next, you got to test, train, and promote. Number one, try to break the solution. I'm really good at that. I try to report issues outside the county. I try to report blank issues with no locations. I added photos that didn't have an allowable file type. You name it, I tried it. You got to test on multiple web browsers and devices. So if you ever see me at work and I'm wandering around the parking lot with my cell phone, I'm testing an app. And then it was time to sort of, put it into production. And we submitted some actual work orders that we had sort of been holding on to for a couple of weeks. And then I immediately went to the administrative assistant in the general services department. I went to her and I sat with her for about an hour, and we worked through each one of those work orders as it came in so she could become familiar and comfortable with this completely new technology. And then I followed up with her about a week. We did the same process. And after that, she has just been phenomenal picking this up and really running with it. And that's pretty much essential. I think you always talk about GIS, being systems and computers and software, but people is where it's at. And you've got to train them appropriately or they'll never use your solutions. And then I've tried to promote the use of this through different newsletters, email notifications, links on our website, but word of mouth really seems to work best. I'm not going to try a demo. These folks are brave. I'm not that brave. So the solution itself does include a hub site, and so I took a couple screenshots here of what that hub site looks like. And then on the left-hand side is what the citizens see when they submit a work order. It's limited, so the citizens really only see that portion of it. Staff with a login can see the internal workings of the hub site. So this is basically what the managed work orders looks like. So our admin staff, receive a work order. They can review that it's, everything is correct, and then assign it to an individual as needed. And then the send emails script, notices that that's been done, sees who, it actually emails the entire group now, but you could have it email specific individuals based off of what's put in here at this manage work orders screen. And importantly, one of the requirements of our general services department was that they wanted to be able to print something off once the work order was complete. And so this managed work orders allows them to download a CSV file and print whatever it is they may need. And that was a crucial part of the solution for them. They like to keep those paper records. This is what the dashboard looks like. I added a few things to this, but the majority of it came out of the box from the solution. It's really cool. You can kind of see, where you are, how many have been assigned and canceled and whatnot. You can see the different types of damages. So those two pie charts at the bottom sort of quantify the type of damage that's occurring, whether or not these things are having to be replaced because they're getting knocked down or they're getting stolen, to sort of help, get a grasp of what's going on. And then you can see an average time to have them repaired as well. So we always get asked as GIS people about a return on investment, and it's extremely hard to quantify those types of things. And so I attempted to do that here, and it's not the largest amount of money you've ever seen. However, it is true, it is valid. As of earlier this week, we've had 4 duplicated work orders put into the system, and staff were able to cancel those work orders before the materials were ordered, saving about $75 per sign, plus the staff time it takes to do the work out in the field. And I'm going to try to explain this chart to you. I look at this chart regularly to sort of help me and guide me. Am I spending too much time on a project for the return on investment? So for example, across the top, you've got how often you do something. And so I just chose weekly, that there's one road sign issue a week that will be impacted and have a reduction of time due to this work order system. So if you do something 1 hour, let's see, 1 hour a week, over the course of 5 years, you actually are saving 10 days of work time. And so in my opinion, the 4 or 5 days it took me to build this solution are completely worth the return on the investment due to the reduction in time in other departments in the county. And we're also hoping to increase citizen engagement and satisfaction as well. So here's a flow chart of what we wound up with. As you can see, there's just as many entry points as there were before, but they're now all funneled to a single location. The county work order system is vetting the road names for us because you can only enter the correct road name into the system. Staff can pull up those work orders on their mobile devices, see where they need to go. Once they perform their work, they can mark the work order complete in the field without having to make a phone call or go back to the office. And then that routes some emails back to admin staff for printing and filing as needed. So that was a quick, hopefully enlightening presentation. Wanted to provide a photo that we became aware that citizens had attempted to replace this road sign with a handmade one and had covered it in a garbage bag. This is Henry Brandon Road, and it's up near Hyco Lake. I just thought I would include that just for some humor. I'd be happy to take any questions. I can't have explained it that well. Yes. That's a great question. I have a great IT person that knows the answer. We can maybe chat about that later. I can pull it up and we can take a look at it. But I want to say it's Microsoft Exchange. There were some TLS issues that we had to work through, some sort of security, something or other. But I don't exactly recall. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Miranda Stewart with Buncombe County, using death certificates and story maps to humanize data about opioid overdoses. All right. You are this one here, right? No. Oh, sorry. That is Durham, obviously. Okay, let's see here. All right. This one here. Yes. Thank you. Let's get you started.
All right. Hi, my name's Miranda Stewart. I work with Buncombe County Land Records and GIS.
And I just want to talk with you guys about getting creative with your data sourcing and how there are a lot more sources out there if you're willing to put in the effort. So our opioid response coordinator approached our register of deeds because she was having a difficult time getting local data. She was able to access the state data, but that's usually on a countywide level. So it didn't really indicate to her where she needed to put her response efforts, where she needed to do additional trainings, or where she needed to place additional Narcan. So she kind of came to us because death certificates are public record. Anyone can walk into your register of deeds, pull out a death certificate book, and just start browsing through. The difficult part is they're documents, so they're not an easily indexable database that you can just type in opioid overdose. But we also wanted to make sure that you could do some public education, try to destigmatize some of these deaths, as well as make sure that all of our departments were collaborating, because the register of deeds had the death certificates. Our opioid response coordinator is trying to coordinate response. EMS is out there in the field responding, and then the detention facility center would occasionally see people. So it's a lot of departments who don't always communicate. So wanted to kind of bring everybody to the same page. Like I mentioned before, death certificates, public record. Anyone can log into them. You just got to talk to your local register of deeds, see how they have them indexed. They're also recorded really quickly. State data takes a while to compile. We've got 100 counties contributing. But your local register of deeds is going to have a death certificate within weeks. If there's a medical examiner's report, you may have a few months, depending on how backed up they are, but you're going to have that very quickly. And you also have options for your attributes. State data is going to be really high level. You may not have that much detail, but your death certificate's pretty individualized. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want in your database. Only downside, it's PDFs. So I will warn you, it's a lot of time reading, typing, entering data, kind of making sure it's all coherent. So our first time-lapse map, once we compiled everything, let's see if I can get this to play for us. There we go. Once we had our base data, we just joined that with our addressing, and we were able to create 10 years worth of death data from 2010 to 2019. And this first map was instrumental because we were able to see where and when those trends were occurring. That really indicated to us where we need to kind of focus those resources. And 10 years worth was a long time to see, were there any statutes that affected this? Were there any local trends that occurred? So that definitely gave us a good starting point. I do want to mention we were very cautious. Death data can be very personal to families, so we made sure to use a heat map. It's a very large point, it's obscured. Nobody could pinpoint on a house and figure out exactly whose family had passed from this. So we were very cautious every step to make sure that we were sensitive to those family members and not cause them any extra grief. Also, these maps are great because you can restrict the scale. So someone could zoom into a community, but as soon as you started seeing that street level data, point's gone. So that kind of gave us some interactivity for our readers. And once we got all that, though, we realized it didn't really feel human. You see bulk numbers and trends. Our highest year was 2017. You just see this number of 124 deaths. It's really easy to look at 124 and just start stigmatizing, thinking with bias, thinking with stereotypes. You don't really know who that person was. And that's when our death certificates come back in handy. You're able to pull a lot of personal information. We were able to do gender, race, age, were they a county resident, were they from out of state? And most importantly for us, we were able to use occupation. That was kind of our big ticket to showing who each one of these people were. What did they do during their day? What did they spend their life doing? And we very quickly realized that this was affecting everyone. Every industry. We had healthcare, we had police force, we had teachers, our restaurant workers, our artists, our students. Basically everybody was involved in this data. So that really helped us start destigmatizing some of these deaths. Once we had that base data, the benefit of using local information, you know your other counties, departments, you know what they have. So we could take our data, provide it to EMS. They're able to look at their Narcan administrations, and we identified an exact trend of Narcan administrations versus deaths, but on a much higher level. So that helped us prove to the community that Narcan was really effective. It was worth investing in because it was saving lives. Our detention facility was able to identify trends between release date and death date. And what they noticed is that someone is entered into the facility, their tolerance levels drop, they're released from the facility, and if they go back to their original dosage, they're at a higher risk for overdosing. And so they could find that time frame of when they needed to increase their efforts of identifying them and hooking them up with resources. So now upon release, they're able to give them a kit as well as kind of point them in the right direction for some rehab, or just kind of give them more education about you may be at higher risk for overdose. So that really helped them with that. And if you've never used story maps before, just a little plug for Esri, they're great for public education. You can incorporate so many different types of multimedia. We were able to put an external story map in where families are able to go in and put a picture as well as a story of their loved one. So we could kind of help build that community for family members because it's really difficult for them in the grieving process. They're not only dealing with the death of a loved one, but they're also dealing with the fact that everyone's making assumptions about their loved one and their family, and that was really instrumental for us. It's just being able to connect people with data, but with those extra resources. That really kind of helped us get a message out there. If anybody's interested, we've got the full story map on our Register of Deeds website. So you can go to like what we do, and we've got tons of different story maps and dashboards under there. And of course, if you have any questions, my name's Miranda Stewart, and here's my email. Does anybody have any questions or curiosities? No?
More of
All
a
right.
statement.
Yeah.
It's, in Lincoln County, we have a opioid coalition where we're trying to address the issue. And it's, I will say this is certainly enlightening for me because I was focused on a snapshot, creating a dashboard, working with our EMS. And I feel like a fool because I work in the tax department. We get death certificates on a daily basis, and it never occurred to me to look at that. So
Yeah.
that's really good thinking outside the box.
It was definitely kind of a first time we dug into that too. I think because of for us, everyone always knows how difficult it is to go through death certificates. But we were fortunate. We have a lot of people that were passionate and interested, and just everybody would grab their stack of death certificates and just go through them real quickly. So,
Good job.
yeah, thanks. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Did you have a question over here? I saw a hand go up before.
We're pretty fortunate. At the time, our death certificates that had medical examiners report were 2 pages. So it kind of helped us. We didn't have to look at every certificate. We could just target those medical examiner reports. But I want to say there was probably about 3 or 4 people. We probably put in 1 to 2 hours a day over this system. So it wasn't terribly nice stuff. Yeah.
So I also wanted to mention that Miranda was one of the finalists for the Herb Stout Award too, and I think from her presentation you can see why. Next, we have Nicole Toms with the City of Durham talking about GIS applications for stormwater public assistance programs. And there you go.
Sweet, thank you. Yeah.
Hello. All right, well, hey, everybody. My name is Nicole Toms, and I'm with the Public Works Department GIS Division at City of Durham, and this is my first time at the conference, so bear with me. I heard that stormwater and budgeting are popular topics here, so it's my honor to present to you our project of how we use GIS analysis to identify stormwater improvement projects and use GIS analysis tools toward looking for a scope of budget with our findings. So to define some of our scope and objectives, and the PDAP program is where private residents will reach out for assistance toward fixing issues they notice, such as a pipe causing a sinkhole in their house or some kind of a new indoor pool they didn't want because a pipe burst and it's not supposed to be under a house. So we had used GIS to locate those possible locations of pipes before they caused a problem or a significant risk to the right-of-way or a private parcel. So the main question, as we can see, sorry, I like to usually point at presentations, but we'll make it work. The question was for us to find out the potential scope of how many pipes are out there under private parcels or specifically residential homes, and what is the total lengths of these pipes, and then how does the amount of pipe length and pipe count affect the anticipated budget available for the public assistance program. And our use for the analysis tools consisted of our stormwater pipes layer, our parcels layer, and a building polygon layer. And here on screen are just some examples of how real of a situation this is for some residents in Durham, where there are pipes that do unfortunately tend to fail and they cause sinkholes and significant damage. And it's very serious and costly, and that's why we have some private residents reaching out to the PDAP program for assistance. So for the main GIS focus of this whole awesome shebang, we started by focusing on the stormwater inventory pipes layer, and there was a join done to associate the attribute table between the parcels layer and the storm pipes layer, and that was so that we could tie the land use type to the pipes. And with the land use type, we could then work with PDAP to focus in on just residential land use type pipes. And then we use the query to filter for specifically the residential, and we have a table here outlining showing how many buildings were affected and the total pipe length count and pipe count. And because that was a lot of like feet and count in pipes, we wanted to have a more accurate depiction, and then we use an intersect tool, a geoprocessing tool, which allowed us to see exactly what we call the conflict length of the pipe conflict. So it's essentially just the segment of pipe that is truly under a building polygon. And the reason I focus in on accuracy and what is truly under a residential building or not is because GIS, as we know, keeps evolving, and we keep getting better and better with the more iterations we have of its use. And so sometimes some pipes that intersected a building polygon ended up being more of a corner hit or a near map imagery shift. And then we also wanted to make sure that pipe lengths that we were going to report to PDAP for possible projects out there consisted of pipes truly being under like main homes and not standalone garages or accessory buildings. And performing this intersection analysis allowed us to reduce the initial scope of possible problematic projects by 120,000 feet, so roughly 74% reduction, which is kind of a sigh of relief when we talk about budget. In addition to reporting some more false positives, we created some criterias that were possible by researching other ArcMap tools out there. We focused in on having a significant pipe diameter, so 24 inches or larger. We focused on building footprint being significant, and the NearDist tool available in ARC tools. And then we created this fancy, beautiful dashboard here that helped with reporting and visualizing data metrics, because there was a lot of pipes and a lot of numbers, and we want it to make sense. And yes, thank you for bearing with me here. I appreciate your time, and I'm available for any questions. Well, thank you for letting me know that my presentation was thorough and great. For a first time, I guess it was good. Appreciate you guys.
All right. Is this you? Filmed? Okay, next we have Kristen Bullock with, did I pronounce that right? Is it Bullock? Bullock, okay. With Union County Field Collection of Well and Septic Systems.
Good morning. I'm Kristen Bullock. I work for Union County GIS. In 2020, our environmental health department approached our GIS department because they wanted a solution to their process for submitting permit requests for septic and well. They were doing it by paper submission forms, and they wanted a more efficient way to do it. So we contracted with Esri to create a field maps project. This is an example of the old paper forms that they used to use, and the old measuring wheel that they used to use to measure lots. So the Esri staff actually created the Field Maps app and all the forms that are in it. And then my job was to maintain the app once Environmental Health started using it to collect data. You can access the app in ArcGIS Online, and that's where I can make edits to the forms. So we now could say bye to the paper forms because we had everything we needed with Field Maps. And I was brand new to Field Maps. I knew nothing about it, so this has been a huge learning process for me. And in ArcGIS Online, you could do so much. You can perform simple tasks such as editing the symbology of the different layers in the forms. You can add and design pop-ups. You can edit properties of layers such as setting transparency levels or adjusting scale dependencies, and so much more. This is a screenshot of what it actually looks like. The environmental health staff used iPhones, and this is actually a screenshot from the app on the iPhone. And it basically just made gathering data for septic and well locations more efficient and more exact. In the app, the form allows you to access all parcel data just at your fingertips, just by selecting a parcel. So I made edits and changes to the app directly in Field Maps on ArcGIS Online or in ArcGIS Pro, which seamlessly provided updates to ArcGIS Online. So transitioning to field maps saves time and provides more reliable data in the end. So all in all, the process for Union County Environmental Health to collect data for permits for septic systems and wells has become streamlined by using ArcGIS field maps. And that's it. Any questions? Okay.
Well, the paper forms that you previously had, was any of that, did any of that information exist in the database or paper files?
It was in an Access database.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it was you were able to-
Yeah. And I should mention that one problem I've encountered with this is offline capability. We've got an open ticket with Esri right now trying to figure out what is causing that problem because we cannot figure it out. You're supposed to be able to take the Field Maps app anywhere and be able to work with it even when you don't have Wi-Fi available, which there are many areas of Union County where there is no Wi-Fi available. So that's one issue that we're still working through. Thank you. I'm not sure what the horizontal accuracy was. I could look into it and let you know, though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can look into that and let you know. Right. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next we have Will Corbett, Wilson County, with election maps. Get that started.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. I'm Will Corbett. I'm the GIS coordinator for Wilson County. I'm going to be doing my presentation on two different tools that we used in elections, or for the 2020 elections. Those of you probably remember 2020 was kind of a tumultuous year. We had pandemic, and we had the social justice movement and differential privacy on census, big issues like that. But going into, with everything sort of up in the air going into the 2020 election season, we were having a lot of requests for maps, both by individuals, political parties, and part of this was built out of, wanting to try to raise the level of voter interaction, and part of it was simply because we were getting tired of phone calls to constantly make the same map over and over. So we created within our normal public website, and we got help from Highland Mapping, which is now Avinion. So they had originally designed the website for us. So we essentially added a report. And if you sort of see in the circle, we had two reports. We've got a parcel report where it'll essentially take the CAMA data, export it out to a pretty paper report that somebody can print out, like an appraiser or somebody like that. But we added one below it that was the voting district report. And with that voting district report, if you just clicked on that link within the CAMA information, it would bring up a report that shows where the polling place was for the person to vote. It would bring up they could verify their address and their the ownership up at the top through the tax records. But internally, we had a script that would go and run and join up the parcels with our voter district information. So it was sort of a one-stop shop for where do I go to vote and who are my representatives. And we've since used that not just for for voting elections in particular, but if someone wants to reach out to their representative, they're able to see who's my representative. Someone's new in town. Doesn't know where to go vote, they can come here and see. We did learn a couple of things. Initially, we had a part of the script to zoom in on the base map to the polling location. What we found was a lot of times, and as y'all know, if you're dealing in your neighborhood, you have sort of landmarks that aren't always the same at every scale. And so what we found was better just to essentially do a screenshot of the base map and then link back to that. I also found out then that polling places can move. So when that happens, you need to remember where that is in the script to go and redirect it to the new image. So this was the voter report we did. It wasn't anything super fancy. It was a hair bit technical. But it really, we've gotten a lot of good engagement. I got a phone call right before I came to Winston from one of the political parties that was doing I guess their county annual meeting, and were asking me a couple of questions about it. They've used it in the past, but wanted to just find out where the print button was and a couple of things like that. And they really were very positive about it. It's not perfect. We do have instances where if there's a parcel that say is split by district, it's going to throw both bits of information. So it's at that point, it's sort of up to the resident to know, okay, is my house here or is it here? Most of the time, that's in a case like that, it's a large tract, maybe a farm or something. And our Board of Election uses this sort of in a quick down and dirty phone call, or somebody shows up at the polls, but it's certainly not the official Board of Elections voter rolls by any means. The other project that we did coming off of 2020 was I was involved with redistricting. And was anybody in the room involved in redistricting for your area? That was a lot of fun, I'm sure. I had county commissioners sitting at my desk asking me if I can move lines. And I mean, they were doing it in a very innocent way, but it was very stressful. Dealing with the sort of the nuts and bolts of the political side of your job. So I was super worried because we did it completely in-house. And I was really worried about transparency and making sure that no one could really come in and question what we were doing. So I did what I usually do when I'm trying to figure out the best way to do something. And in this case, it was figure out what Alice Wilson was doing, because Alice had done a map similar. And so I can't claim this as really my idea. It was went in and we created a story map. And let me just say, story maps are great initial. If you haven't done a project and you've sort of said, hey, I want to do something sort of outside my normal day-to-day things, and you have something really passionate about, story maps are a great place to start because they're so easy for those of you that haven't worked with them before. But it was sort of a social studies lesson a little bit for our citizens about why we were redistricting. That was one of the first the first things we tackled in it. I put a lot of the statistics up there just from 2010 to see, so they could see there again, transparency, where we come from, where we're going. Then we used a combination of maps of the new districts, the old districts, and I created areas where we had change, sort of hashed them. And then folks were able to use the slider just to go back and forth and see, okay, what areas are changing. The commissioners themselves were able to do that, and that was actually really easy for communicating with them as well. This was, and then we had another map embedded in there from ArcGIS Online that was sort of they could use this for pop-ups and areas, zoom into really the street level if they wanted to. Also, we used this to sort of tell the story too of the population changes that we had in the county. And then finally, we had PDFs. So if people wanted to print them out, hand them out, they could certainly do that. Ironically, I guess it was yesterday morning, I got a phone call from our paper. I still had this up, but had sort of forgotten about it. And the paper, we unfortunately had a county commissioner that passed away about a month ago. And so they were doing a story on trying to get folks to submit their names for to be selected to fill that seat. And they were actually using that story map to see the changes and be able to contact or put the story out there that if people were interested, they should contact the particular party for consideration. So that's all I've got. Any questions? So otherwise, I'll be here all week. So.
All right, thank you, Will. Okay, next we have Tim Blanchard from the City of New Bern. City of New Bern Data Hub, a living data store. Are you doing a demo?
It was on website. Yeah.
Website, okay. All right, go for it. Unless, did we have it open here?
No. That's all right. I know how to get to it.
Yep, go for it.
C.gov. I'm just going to go here and you can kind of see how to navigate to our hub site that we got going. We have it right here. Our public information officer put it all over our website because she's pretty excited about it. Again, my name is Tim Blanchard. I'm with the City of New Bern. I've been there now roughly 6 months. This is my first time at the NC GIS conference, so I figured I'd just jump in the deep end and start by giving a presentation. When I first started there, one of the first projects Alice Wilson, who's the GIS coordinator at New Bern, gave me was to work on this hub site. She had previously had it kind of started up and booted it up and stuff with my predecessor, but never got it really going. So I looked at it, and the first thing that came to my mind was that public information officer that's really excited about this. I reached out to her. I got the contact information for her and started with the design of the website. So what are the colors that that the city uses, like what are the recommendations and imagery and everything like that. She was very helpful with a lot of the design elements. And so we just put together this data hub that pretty much the goal of it is to have a living data store where people from anybody really, but a lot of our stakeholders and even internal users can view the data that we have that is available. You see that we worked on the design. We got, I don't know if you can see my mouse. You can see my mouse. We connected to our social media, which is really great to make sure that everything is all connected and everything. All right, let's get that to go away. And so Data Hub is pretty much, you see right here, you got our nice picture of a background, tells you what it is, and then you can go right into the data and start viewing what kind of data we have on here. And putting this together, what made this a great project for me starting out at New Bern is it required me to reach out to every department and talk to everybody and put my face out there to get everybody acquainted with me and start figuring out what some of their needs were. What kind of stuff would you like to see available to the public? What kind of stuff do you not want? Well, and it opened up conversations to other areas. So talk to fire about what kind of stuff they were looking for. And then, hey, maybe we also might like a survey 123 form to help us out with doing our truck inspections, which is something that I've been working on them with. So it really helped me build a lot of connections within the city of New Bern. And then HubSite was really great to be able to design. It lets you have a lot of customization. I like being able to pull in stats right here. This really like gives a great impression to the public and to our aldermen, where they can look at here and they can see some stats here. They can have quick access to some of our most used applications. And then when I was talking to those departments, I put together pages for them where they have, actually, I think the pages were set up prior, but I started filling in the information for them to figure out what they had really wanted. We added a mapped and document page. So this is, we were talking about it, and we think having the PDFs available, that, you know, the print off maps, we're still working on this. We've only had, the website has been live for a month. And so we're still working on getting feedback and putting more data out there. But start putting some PDF maps on here so that way people have a resource to go to and just print those off for themselves. And then a simple data viewer down here where they can navigate and see their, we get a lot of questions about what ward am I in and stuff like that. So really easy for people to see where parks are located in relation to their home. They can search their address and see all sorts of stuff. And the great thing about how HubSite works is, as you can see, this is right there on that main HubSite page, so they don't have to go too deep into that. I also set up a feedback survey. Oh, that is probably not publicly shared. Well, I'll have to fix that. But feedback survey is hopefully will be working, so that way we get feedback from the community. That would explain why I haven't probably gotten any feedback surveys in the first month, and I was worried about that. I have gotten in-person, great thing about going out there talking to people is I have gotten in-person feedback from our our economic redevelopment officer and our historic district officer, who are both very interested in the data that was going on here and gave me a lot of back and forth. It's always good to see people taking interest in this. The hub site also allows you to do a lot of stuff with, like, talking to the police department, get their blurb from them, and then they use LexisNexis for reporting their maps. Let's see if it will load. It might be, since this is live, it might decide that it doesn't want to load for us. But you can bring in the card from the LexisNexis site and have that kind of stuff hosted live in here. And it doesn't look like it wants to load, and that is the trouble with doing a live presentation. But I know one that does work is over from our utilities department, hopefully works, is our real-time power outages. So the idea of having a hub is having a place that is available for the citizens to go to start reaching basic information and start seeing things like this. So, you know, if they know there is also this same map is on our website, but recreating it and having it in another area just adds a little bit of redundancy, so that way the citizens can find the data that they are looking for. All right, any questions?
This might be a conversation for later, but I saw, off topic, that
Yeah.
you had that PDF of the roadmap.
Mhm.
So you're gonna have to tell me how you did that, but I wanna know more about how you did that, like the actual road names and the grid, that was. Because, like, that's a question you get a lot of times, it's like, can I get a street map with like a grid?
Yeah, so we had an existing street map that is literally pasted on the wall in our building. Alice, I think, made that. And I kind of fixed it down into a printable, well, it's on 2 sheets, but it's 2 sheets of paper that it's been fixed down into. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, and so, yeah, having it right there on the hub site in a map gallery, and hopefully, we have trash pickup, but maybe add some ward maps and stuff. And we plan to put other reports in here in the future as well.
Yeah,
So-
so I realized I need to go and work on Greenville. So I'm gonna go steal all the stuff that you got up here. Really, that's
It's a cycle. You steal from Alice, you steal from me, that's fine. We'll find stuff to equate it, find something to take on our own. All right, any other questions? Yes, sir. The hope is, it's only been live like a month, but part of the hope is we actually get a lot of internal requests from, and I said with the Historical Commission and the Redevelopment Commission, they do ask for a lot of internal maps. So this is hopefully to give them a resource that they can go and check that information themselves before asking us for a map. Maybe we already have something on here that meets that need. Yeah. And if they don't, part of it being a living document, we can update it for them and provide that information for them if they want it. There are certain limitations of privacy, but the good thing about, and as I try to do that feedback survey, if you put things behind a login, then you can keep it internal to your organization. So you can have internal information on here and not worry about it getting out unless somebody has a login for New Bern. All right, thank you.
I think that's one of the best, one of the benefits of this kind of format is you see all the things that you might need to just go steal later. Somebody's already done it for you, so make use of all of the brain power in these rooms. Okay, next we have Byron Burrell from Lincoln County, remembering why we got into this in the first place.
So I guess first off, I'll say, we've had some really great presentations, so go ahead and lower your expectations. So, we got into GIS because we were looking at all these great and amazing maps. These maps that, show real time, these things that, we're hoping to change the world. We find these examples and or come to conferences to steal ideas to do that later at home. So, these are just some of those great maps, like a smoke forecast timeline added to, USA wildfire map. Just a really great graphic. John Nelson, he does a lot of cartography. It's really great to watch a lot of what he does. And as I find time, I'm hoping to mimic a lot of that. Also, the Esri story map team, the Human Reach, really great story map, really shows you what a story map is capable of. And then also, just dashboards. Dashboards just period are cool. We try to create them. They give us a lot of information. And so these are all the things that we were looking at, and they were just the things that we wanted to do. They were so cool. It's, I want to do that. But every time I go to try to work on something, I get something like this or that. Sometimes this. So I honestly think for every tool that Esri makes, I think they have at least 3 error messages, and I find them every time. So it's, every time we're working on stuff, we're trying to make those great and amazing products. We're working through all the issues. So it's really cool to try to work on some of this stuff, but I swear nothing puts you more on the edge of your seat as a GIS professional than this loading bar. You know, after you've been fighting something for a week, you think you figured it out, you're waiting, you know, woohoo, you know, that's great. I finally made it. You know, I was going, you know, for that John Nelson map, I wanted to look just like it. And that's your product. You know, you worked, you know, all week, you finally got one thing to work, and that's what you came up with. So there's those frustrating times that hit us in GIS. You know, we're working, we're trying to figure things out, and, you know, it's not always the easiest. You know, it's really great to come here, look at the products people are coming up with, go back home, try to steal that idea, but, you know, reach out to those individuals and, you know, ask them, you know, for information. You know, we're here to network, we're here to figure out how we can make the world a better place, and that's one way to do that is to just converse between each other. And that was supposed to go with the last picture, so thinking back to the good times, you know, when we're getting in GIS and we're wanting to do all this, you know, neat and interesting things, these great graphics, you know, when we're in class and stuff, the data was clean, everything worked, and one of the most important things is we were able to be creative. So I'm going to try to pull this up. We'll see if it works. Man. Okay, logging in as long as it don't give my password here. Excuse me 1 second. So what's happening on the back end is I'm just logging in so that I can show y'all this. So being creative, this is one of the products that I came up with. I just started with Lincoln County. We're having a team building workshop, and you know, making those great and amazing products doesn't always have to change the world. Sometimes it can just bring you and your team together. So this was literally a team building workshop with a Secret Santa component. I work in the tax department, so you know, 'twas many nights before Christmas when all through the department, all creatures were stirring to determine a present. The reports were finished and filed away in hopes that soon county taxes would soon be paid. The employees were ready for a party at 3, put the time in, with a vision of happiness and joy they would soon see. It only required entering information below. With that information, a presenter of Secret Santa will bestow. So just have fun with the projects you work on. You know, this was Secret Santa, like I said, so employees could enter their names, put their divisions, and then here was those different ideas. So like, what is one item that your heart desires? Remember, keep it under 15 bucks. What's something you can't live without? Can you really get that for 15 bucks? So this is just, you know, have fun with the different projects and so on. This is one that I had came up with, and along with this, you know, for those that don't know much about Survey 123, I could monitor activity. I could figure out who in the department had actually filled it out. It was voluntary, but this also gave me the ability to pester everyone by email to get them to fill out the survey. So I could just keep on aggravating them till I got everyone that wanted to do this to actually fill it out. But the really cool thing was when we were having this team building workshop, I was able to pull this up on the screen. And then this was a question that's, where's your favorite place at Christmas? You know, where's your favorite place to be during the holidays? And so, you know, it gave them a map, and this is just displayed as a talking point for you and your team. You know, it was a great way to just kind of show the different, you know, places that, you know, where we all go during Christmas. You know, we're all together typically 40 hours a week, but when when it hits 5 o'clock and we're going home, you know, where does that take you? And then when it comes to those answers to those questions, as far as the different items that they would be interested in, this was just an Excel document that I shared with everyone. So you know, whoever's name that you would eventually draw, that's how you would know what they would want for that Secret Santa team building aspect. So when I initially decided to do this presentation, it was I was just kind of thinking about, why did I get into GIS? The aspects along the way, the frustrations that sometimes occur. And I think along with many of the presentations I've seen over the last 24 to 48 hours is this same message that a lot of people keep saying. Remember, be creative, have fun. Yes, it's your job, but it's also part of your life. So make sure you enjoy it. Thank you. Does anyone have questions about my Secret Santa survey?
No, but I think you officially get more errors than I do, and I thought that I got a lot of errors. So, I think you get a certificate for that. That's right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Jessica, I wanted to answer the question that you asked. He gets about 3 feet horizontal accuracy.
I don't know where my, oh, it's down there. That's interesting. All right. Yeah, those are all new birds, so we'll get rid of that whole thing. Get rid of this for you. Wait a minute, I think I keep going down there. And we'll get to this. And all the way up. Okay. We'll get you started. All right, and last but not least, we have Sheila Carmen Curry with the City of Greensboro, creating equity and inclusion in historic preservation through the use of story maps. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. So the City of Greensboro Planning Department is utilizing Esri story maps to make historic preservation more equitable and inclusive by focusing attention on African-American neighborhoods, Black history, and the rich civil rights history in Greensboro. We currently have 2 completed story maps under historic preservation, and one's focusing on modernism, architecture, and the civil rights movement, excuse me, in Greensboro's prominent African-American neighborhood in southeast Greensboro, and the second one covers Guilford College New Garden Heritage Community in northwest Greensboro, and the Quakers and the abolitionist movement. So in 2019, we received a grant to conduct an architectural survey of African-American neighborhoods in East and Southeast Greensboro, and it included outreach and collecting oral histories, researching civil rights movement in the history in the city. And that's an example of the architectural survey document that we completed. But it's just a document, so, it didn't really reach many people, and it was very technical. And so we hired consultants, Colliers Engineering and Design, Inc., to do our first story map, and I'm going to try to do a demo. We'll see what happens. Let me see if I can get this demo up here. Let's see. How did we say we were going to do that? Let's see if this works. No, it did not. Okay. Let's see. So here is, let's see, so here's the story map, and it contains examples of mid-century modern residences and churches, and many of which were designed by African-American architects that were trained at NC State University, and it also focuses on neighborhoods that played important role in the civil rights movement, as well as they were home to both leaders and participants in the movement. And at the end, we also included a Survey 123 form so people could provide, yeah, our form is messing up too. There we go. So people could provide input and participate in the survey. So without that survey, people wouldn't be able to get the information from the architectural survey document, and no one would be aware of the work that was being done. But also, due to this story map, we were able to receive an additional grant award from the African American Civil Rights Program to continue our research. It has led to us deeming one of our neighborhoods eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, and we're actually working on doing that, and it would be Greensboro's first African-American neighborhood on the register if they're chosen. So that was actually really beneficial that we were able to get that story map done. Let me get back to, let me see. Start. Okay. So our second story map was done in-house, and it was created for the Guilford College New Garden Heritage Community. And it was developed from a brochure that was designed to serve as a driving and walking tour guide. A heritage community, which was also kind of came out of the architectural and survey work that was done, because we realized that even though a lot of the areas had significant historical significance, they weren't eligible for historic register nomination, but we wanted to recognize them. So Greensboro actually came up with their own designation called Heritage Communities, and we designated 2 areas as heritage communities. One was Warnersville, and the other was the Guilford College New Garden area. Warnersville actually got a big exhibit at the Greensboro History Museum, and Guilford College New Garden chose to create this document, and that's an example of the brochure, is a trifold double-sided document. And, we had a document and people could get the brochure, but how do you get the brochure out to everybody? So I took the brochure and I transformed it into a story map app. And it's a nice brochure, it has a lot of information. People have seen examples of brochures like this before, But how do we get that out to more people and get more information about this wonderful community out and more eyes on it? So I created a story map, and let me see if I can get this one to work. Let's see. So I created this story map app out of that brochure, and luckily we had all the information in the brochure. So I basically took all that information and I put it into a story map. It had all the sections already ready, the story, the college, the town, the historical sites. Those were all already headings in the brochure, and I just put it into a nice story map application, and I added more details. We had community help. The Quaker community was kind enough to give us audio clips and give us little narratives. I don't know if we could hear. You can't, well, you kind of can hear it. Yeah, and he provided audio clips throughout the story map, and we put in nice video clips that were provided. And, it gives a more immersive and interactive experience. And it also, will help because this community is also in danger of development. And, we've got, we can, whenever development happens, we'll have something to turn to and show city council, this is, important areas. We have homes here that are very important to the community, and we have something that we could present the council whenever development happens as an argument. This is why we don't want this development to happen here, and we can show something instead of scrambling to try to present something. Come up with some documents on the fly. We can present the story map to them, and then the community can come out and they can show this and have an argument, and all the council members, instead of just council members from that district, all the council members will see the importance of this area. So, story maps can offer, not just something for pretty pictures and people to see, but, you can help it, preserve your culture and heritage, and also add to the economy by bringing in tourism dollars. And it's interesting because this particular area has ties to that southeast Greensboro area, because Quakers donated land for the Warnersville community, and that's how that Warnersville community came about. So It was, and we're continuing our work with, I'm going to skip a slide here because I had put in a slide to just illustrate the way you can put in the multimedia stuff and story maps and make your story maps more interactive and immersive and stuff. Actually, and once you create your story maps, you can easily update them, and we added a section, new heading called Oral Histories, because part of the Civil Rights project, we are collecting oral histories, and we added a section called Oral Histories because we uncovered something that was related to the Quaker community, and we added this section here. But the oral history section, and we have that. But we are planning to continue that work, and we're steadily collecting oral histories now. We plan to do an oral histories story map. Hopefully, we're going to do an oral history, story map for Warnersville community. Their exhibit at the museum is done, and the museum is working with us to collect all that information. We hope to put that into a story map as well. And that's what we're doing at City of Greensboro. Are there any questions? Oh, yes. Yes, we have, we do press releases, and City of Greensboro has the social media apps. We have our own social media, so we blast that on social media. And of course, all of our staff, we have our own social media, so we put it on ours and tag it, and that's how we get it out. And we've had good response and some great public feedback from it, and they love it. Everyone loves it. And the New Garden community, they love the story map. I mean, they've been sharing it, and they've been talking about it. So it's been really beneficial. Everyone loves story maps, so they can't wait for us to do more work with that. And it's been great. So yes. Well, I don't have examples from other areas, but we're hoping this will be an example for that. That's what we're hoping for. Yeah. Yes. Well, none yet. We've already, before all of this came to be, in the New Garden area in particularly, we have already lost a great deal of historic areas in that, they've been developed. We lost a few years back, there was a big farm out there called Coble Farms, and it was very contentious and very hotly debated, and we ended up losing most of that land. So we're hoping with this that in the future, we will prevent that from happening again. So, yeah. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for those amazing presentations. I love coming to these because you just see the many different ways that GIS is adding value to our communities, and you all are awesome, so thank you.